Mansour. Present. Here.
Okay, I'd like to time to announce following a only for tonight. However, are not on 18 and TA 16 5 Highland Avenue, 110 and 115. If you are here for those items, we'll not bring those tonight. So, or you can just meet. Okay, at this time we will. We won't be doing that. We don't have any presentations. At this time, I'd like to invite to come to public comment. Podium. Public comments will be heard from members of the public. You can speak on items that are not on our agenda. Line up at the podium here where Nav, or our newest woman, is standing, and each speaker in a minute.
Hi, good evening and Happy New Year to everyone. It's so nice to see everybody out. I'd like to congratulate all of the newly elected council members and mayor. And I would like to, on behalf of the Parks Commission, invite everyone to attend the plaque dedication at the Estancia Adobe at Estancia Park this Saturday morning at 10 a.m. It's going to be a lovely dedication to one of our most historic locations in the city, and we would love to have you join us. It goes from 10 to 12, and then the Adobe will be open after that for public tours. So thank you very much, and Happy New Year.
Good evening, Council. My name is Hank Castagnetti. I'm a member of the Orange County Model Engineers in Fairview Park. We're the train guys. I just wanted to relay something that happened over the holidays that I find particularly phenomenal. On Christmas Eve, our bridge over there was tagged. It's a regular occurrence, but I thought it was odd that it happened on Christmas Eve. Even more amazing was that the city's graffiti department showed up on Christmas Day to eradicate it. And I would just like to make a big shout out to Gaetano Russo, who heads the department, and I would hope that he would pass along to all of his staff our appreciation for an amazing response. They're always really great in responding to graffiti, especially when we have public over there. We don't want them to read some of the things that get posted on the bridge. But again, want to thank him very much, and I hope all of you would pass that along.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, Mayor Foley and distinguished council members. My name is Sharp, and I am a member with IPYD, but that is a branch of HWPL, and that is a large organization, an NGO actually, that focuses on peace, local, federal, international level. And so internationally, it does a lot of work with peace law, but locally, it has over 70. And over the last about 5 years, HWPL has expanded Europe. And so tonight, I'm actually for you because a lot of our volunteers actually come from Costa Mesa. Other cities are like Fullerton and Anaheim, Buena Park, and others. And what I am doing is kind of appealing to you on behalf of them to create more of a dialogue with local leaders about advancing peace in our local community, tangible and innovative ways. And so as we kind of move into the new year, 2 initiatives have been spreading a message, appealing to local leaders to gain their support for just advancing peace in general and in the community. And secondly, that we are focused on peace education and creating dialogue with city council members as well as assembly members and others about ways of advancing peace in their community too. And so really, I just wanted to come before you tonight and say hello on behalf of all the volunteers at WPL, and I hope that we have an opportunity to meet with you, perhaps one-on-one, maybe different interviews, to get your feedback on some of the work that we are doing as an organization and I hope that moving forward as well, we can really build a strong rapport.
Thank you for coming up. Good evening, Your Honor.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Board, be here. My name is Lynn Biddle, and I'm a retired federal. But I'm here this in court. In any, I'm here tonight, and I'm very happy to be here tonight, and to invite all residents to join us third Orange Women's Day, Saturday. Now you might ask, why march? And what's this all about? And I'd have to say that it's about whatever you're marching for. It's an expression bringing together the community, and I'm happy to hear the young man just before me speaking about coming together. Good reason. But here are some of the other reasons that our Orange Planning Committee has put out with respect to thinking about the march. And what they've said is the Orange County Women's March is a completely local effort to promote inclusivity and equity in our collective action to first advance the status of women and women's issues in our communities, and second, of course, being the caretakers of hearth, home, and community, we women chosen to sponsor the women, not to demonstrate, but to invite everyone among us to celebrate, dedicate ourselves to jointly promoting liberty and justice as we work toward our vision of dignity, humanity, and inclusivity for all. And finally, while never seeking to simply be being reactive, it's important to say that we march firmly believe that women and men of good faith, of course, must stand in solidarity with all other communities who feel marginalized, as well as stand together against hatred in any form that they should manifest themselves in the community. I look forward to marching with you in downtown Atlanta on Saturday, January 15th. And for your interest, for anyone's there, I have small flyers here that will give you information about the website. You can go on to Orange OC Women's March. Google that website, you direct where to park, the route. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak to the Council for public comment? Martin.
Flo Martin. I'd like to add a warm fuzzy along with Hank's comment to city staff. This last week, my husband and I were walking Harbor Boulevard and came across a broken chunk of traffic signal cover on the sidewalk. I took a picture of it and sent it to the app My Costa Mesa. The very next day, again on a walk on Harbor Boulevard, there was an orange traffic cone placed right up this broken street. And yesterday I got an email from Public Works asking some more questions. I answered and they responded, and Raja, high five. Thank
you. Good evening.
Good evening, council members. Let me start by saying Happy New Year's. Congratulations to all the newcomers. Welcome on board. Hopefully, business is not going to be as usual. Please. I've missed you guys. Haven't seen some of you guys for a month and a half. I'm sure you guys. So, with that being said, I've got a couple of ideas where I think some open forum where you can ask us, the constituents, as to some of the concerns. I've got quite a few of them, and I'd like to have a few things really looked at, addressed, and fixed. One of them, which is probably at the top of my list, is going to be the dog park. Can we please have grass? I mean, I love my dogs. They probably live better than most, and I'd like them to play on grass instead of dirt. And it's a continuous thing. You know, they've tried it once, it didn't work. Can we get the right people to look at this so we can save money? At the end of the day, the bottom line. By the way, thank you for holding firm on the lawsuit. Congratulations for kicking that rear end. Way to go. And let's push forward with a new eye. It's not business as usual. It's business the right way. And let's take Costa Mesa to a new level. Please, no more Costa misery. Really, I'm tired of hearing it from a lot of people. It's been a really funny holiday season for me, and I must say, I've stepped out of a couple of restaurants and people would approach me and said, "You're the guy at City Council. Keep up the good work." Well, it's not just me. It's the rest of these people in here that we come in and we push, but I get really good feeling in my heart that I think we have a council that is going to listen and be a lot more attentive. Things to still kind of work out, so let's work together. And again, welcome. Happy. Thanks.
Good evening.
Happy New Year. I too was hoping that everything would be on a new track and some of the things that have occurred in the past would not occur again. However, at the last meeting, I was prepared for just the swearing in of the new people and was sort of taken back by the push for AIDS and some of the other monies that were going to be attributed to those amounts of money. Also, the transition team, I was very curious about that. So I put in a public information request about the transition team, and I received 0. Evidently, there is not one piece of paper that tells the purpose, the goal, the destiny, the plans, who's on the committee, what they're going to do, how the public interacts with them, how the public can have input. So right off the bat, transparency, I'm seeing like this flashing thing, same thing, different year. So I'm asking, how can we form a transition team with no paper, no planning, no verification to the public or anything going on like that? So what I'm saying is that how? How do we do that? How does the public know what's going on with the transition team? Who's on it, what they're doing, what the purpose is, how long they're going to last? And I'm asking you, transparency, that's what we've been screaming since 2009. And I hope this isn't going to be a precursor of what's going to be going on, because I'm not going to be happy, and nor are the other citizens of Costa Mesa.
Thank you. We do have the item on our agenda.
Light. Stayed on. Okay, so along the lines of the last night, I had the privilege of watching Todd Spitzer be sworn in as attorney. And I think everyone in Costa Mesa has a chance to go on the Orange County website and watch his reception speech. I don't know if that's the correct. Because if that doesn't inspire you and make you feel good about the person that you elected by 6,000 vote margin, the residents of Orange County were speaking. And there's been a lot of corruption in my assessment of cities in Orange County and in the DA's office, involving sober living money for one. Sorry, folks. Rakakis took a lot of money over the years for sober living. Todd Spitzer took not one dime from anybody involved. And one of the things, I loved what he says in his speech. Please, I'm begging everybody to go on and watch. It's like a breath of fresh air. And he says his office will not be politicized. In no way will he allow the district attorney's office to become a political tool for power for either party. Boy, we can get everybody on board with that on our city council. That would be fabulous. So please watch that. And I But also listen to the beginning of his acceptance speech because he tells his story. And it's quite remarkable about how he ended up where he is. And so please be sure to watch that. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further speakers, we'll close public comment. Oh, okay, come on up to the podium. This will be our last speaker on this podium.
I'm
Thank you.
looking forward.
Thank you. Okay. And if there's no one else, I'll close public comment and we'll go to council member reports, comments, suggestions. Time in the meeting, council provide comments. Committee reports, suggestions. Each council member will be limited to 4 minutes, and we'll hear some additional comments necessary at the end of the meeting. We'll begin with.
I will try to be quick since we've got a late start today. Just want to thank everyone for being here. I'm still transitioning from Park and Recreation. Big audience out. I'm also feeling the warm and fuzzies for 2019. I'm really excited about this year. Been looking forward to 2019 for a long time, and I'm very excited about this year. Again, seeing the crowd out here, we have a very engaged, energetic public here. Lots of opportunity for improvement and lots of ideas. Please do, if ideas, what concerns you have. And we have a very, very hard-working staff. Knowledge. I want to thank all of you who are working over the holidays on time-sensitive issues, and of course, thank our public always on this. I want everyone to just put one date on their calendar, April 26th, opening of our new library. I had the opportunity to tour the site just this morning with Councilmember Chavez, and it is just very, very exciting to see that vision come to life. That stand inside the building is absolutely beautiful. The trees are going in, so please do make sure that you have that date available on your calendar to open the library with. For anyone who lives in the area, or of course anyone across the city, we do have an opportunity for public input this Saturday on the park adjacent to the library, that we all know as Airport Park. We're going to be talking or collecting input from the community design of that park space. So 10 to noon at the Downtown Rec Center. Please join us. I'll be there the full 2 hours. Want to also endorse the My Costa Mesa app. Thank you for bringing that up. If you haven't used that, please do. We're very responsive on it. So I'll pop full on my way in here today, and I'll put it in there. And hopefully we can get that fixed very quickly. Again, thank you for sharing your ideas. I want you all to remember that we serve you. So the more information that we get from you on what you want to see happen in the city, the better we can serve. In response to the last public comment about homelessness and what we're working on to address that situation in Costa Mesa, I'll only say that that's why we were late to the meeting today. We've been working very, very hard. Our staff is very, very hard. Encourage anyone to follow along the city's social media to see stuff.
Councilmember Chavez.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to this first council meeting of the year. I hope everyone had a happy holidays and time with family and friends over this past couple weeks. My update this week will be very brief. I met with all heads of our city this past couple months, trying to get up to date on all that's going on in our city. A few things that did stick out to me, and I want to point them out real quickly. We have an amazing staff that does a lot of work on amazing. I was surprised constantly by how amazing our staff is, how engaged in our community, how much work they put in to make sure we have a high quality life here in our city. When we first joined this city council, all of us on the dais that were new campaigned on finding solutions for homelessness. And it was refreshing to find a staff that had already plans in place so we can implement going forward. Furthermore, I have on two more things that really caught my eye. I did a ride along with the police department 2 weeks ago. Great night shift, Saturday night from 8 until midnight. Once again, showing how much work they do for us in our community. A lot of the calls were regarding the homeless, and a lot of calls were regarding drunks. And to me, it just reminds us how much work our police department does, and full us fire and safe for our community to keep us safe at all times, even when we're not really awake. The last thing I want to touch on was, like Reynolds said, I did take a tour of Lions Park today. Very excited for the new space to be activated. We're going to get a brand new acre in our park. We're going to get a brand new library with nice, beautiful windows. It'll be really a great space for a community, especially in West Side. And as always, I'm always here for anyone's questions, comments, concerns, via phone, email, text, whatever it may be. Our job here is to serve you, and that's what we're going to do. Thank you.
Member Mark.
Good evening, everyone. About a month since we were all sworn in, and as you can tell from the previous comments, all of us who up here have been getting up to speed as fast as possible, meeting with department heads, going on ride-alongs, going on tours within our city. So it's actually been a really busy but really exciting month. Caught myself smiling really big as I walked in the car in the parking lot at City Hall, like stab. So if you see a crazy lady running around, like yelling and me, the work I'm doing right now. I do want to point out, after you go to the playground group with Carlos, they're from noon to 2 on Saturday. Priceless Pets is open. Animal shelter, which we call the Orphanage, located at 15 Port Boulevard. So sorry, noon to 5. And so I'm really excited about that. Distributed so that somebody can adopt a pet without paying any adoption. So that.
Sure.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to taking the Lions Park tour tomorrow as well, and yeah, scheduled to do that tomorrow. Other than that, what you're seeing now are the council member comments. They're in a set order. We used to take them. You know, I just think it'd be better to keep it as it was not, and I'd like back all road. That's just my opinion. Comment.
But just to clarify, we are going to rotate it every meeting. It'll rotate. It'll still rotate.
I was under the impression that it was set in this order.
No.
I stand corrected.
Thanks. Okay. Councilmember Guinness.
Well, it's going to be a busy Saturday because we've already heard about Lions Park. I would also like to know about Priceless Pets grand opening file. We've been this for many months, so look forward to you guys get your forever home on Saturday and in the following days. And that's from 12 to 5, and then we have the Wisconsin Park commemoration. There'll be a plaque. There'll be a nice celebration of the park, the monument there. I had met with park president, asked about probably back about what they would like. I do hope then also Saturday, and I'll be interested. On Sunday, I was privileged with Posada area, and I just wanted to thank all the ladies, food, people, boys, a lot of toys, really. So I just want to thank everybody who helped with that. And walking around yesterday, I noticed certain was the evening really mattered. And I was a little stressed with the amount of water. If place your neighbor still have water. Let our public know.
Yeah. So I was going to mention also the orphan. And by price tag, but I want to put it a little bit of context. People have talked about how, but 1 year ago, after put in, they did an fab. This November, our animals put a word price tag. So that's a big deal. In my experience, there's a lot of them in Costa Mesa. Speaking of pet lovers and pets, Andrea Marr and I have been drilling down regarding the coyote issue. And so stay tuned. We met with the foremost expert on coyotes, Dr. Quinn, last month. We're working on a plan to address the coyote issue in our city. The Yellowstone lawsuit, that was a big victory for us, right? For the community. Now, not only did Jennifer Keller and her team do a fabulous job, but the community invested a lot of money into that effort. But also this council, well, not this council necessarily, but four of us, and I'm sure that we were united and committed to this effort. And I can tell you, I believe I do speak for the council, that we are united and committed to continue to enact and enforce and defend reasonable and appropriate ordinances that regulate sober living homes in our community. The transition team, that's NB2. So it's actually the aspect of the transition team is on the city manager search aspect is on our agenda today. New business too. The other thing that happened that'll give you an idea of how hard staff works, I can do it in 43 seconds, is we hired this team, our city team, in 15 days. We gave the authorization for the city council staff, the chief of staff and the 3 management aides on December 4th. We got 120 applications. We did 15 interviews, and we had offer letters out or offers extended in 15 days. Tremendous amount of work by our HR staff, Lance and Tammy Letourneau, our acting city manager, over the holidays. So you should be very, very proud of the effort that all of the departments, public safety and non-public safety, are doing on your behalf.
Thank you. Okay, yes, it's been a fun holiday, but a really busy time for all of us. I spent the good portion of the month of December doing tours with our new council members, orienting them to their new jobs and their new roles, making sure that they were well informed about all of the departments in the city, and we took tours in their districts, so it was a really good engagement. We also, I've already been busy meeting with our new assemblywoman and our new congressional leadership. I have traveled to Sacramento already since just being sworn in to meet with our new assemblywoman about legislation that will help us to manage sober living homes, addiction brokering, and state licensing reforms. And so we're working very collaboratively on those efforts along with our colleagues at the ACCOC. And I'm traveling to Washington, D.C. in January, at the end of January, with the group of bipartisan coalition of Orange County representatives to go to Washington, D.C. to meet with our representatives to address, again, sober living home reforms, specifically within the Department of Health Services. So we're working really diligently because those matters also tie into our explosion of homelessness in our community. And so addicts being evicted from the homes and then now living on our streets is a real concern of ours, and we're trying to address it in a thoughtful, caring, but really proactive way that protects our community. So also very inspired yesterday at the inauguration of our new governor. The feeling, I think, was a very positive one. The new governor expressed his goal towards fiscal conservatism. You know, we are the 5th largest economy in the world, and we also have a healthy reserve, but we can't blow through it. We need to make sure that those dollars are directed in very meaningful ways, and he was very, I think, specific to make sure that we invest in our infrastructure, that we address homelessness and affordable housing for our communities, and that we take care of our children, and we take care of all Californians, so that all of us can live the California dream. And that was a very inspiring and moving inauguration. So I'm looking forward to the good work that we will all be able to do collaboratively to make sure that that happens. I'll reserve the rest of my time except for one thing. I would like to thank all the community members who, two things. I would like to first thank all the community members who donated to the efforts for the families of Captain Kriza and Officer Reyes. We raised more than $6,000 for them. And thank you so much. And I also want to take just a moment to introduce our new Chief of Staff, who happens to be here this evening. His name is Connor Locke. Mr. Locke is currently a legislative analyst for the City of Long Beach. And prior to that, he was the political analyst for the City of Long Beach, Vice Mayor Dee Andrews. He has a Bachelor of Science from Georgetown University. He's currently enrolled in the Master's in Public Administration program at Cal State Long Beach. His first day for City of Costa Mesa will be Tuesday, January 22nd. And you'll have an opportunity to meet him as he gets out into the community, but you can raise your hand and wave, say hi, Mr. Locke. Welcome to Costa Mesa. And just real quickly, also we have 3 management aides that we've hired. Hadassah Jakar. Ms. Jakar is currently a community development planning intern for the City of Manatee. Prior to that, she was a public service fellow for the Western Riverside Council of Governments and a political and economics intern for the U.S. Consulate General of Barcelona. She's got a Bachelor of Arts degree in government and Spanish and minors in Latin American Studies, International Relations, and Law and Society from Cornell University. Her first day will be January 24th. The applicants that applied were amazing. It was very difficult work for us to get to these 4. And then we also are hiring Alberto Ruiz. He's a management aide. Mr. Ruiz was recently the senior field representative for Assembly Majority Floor Leader in the 57th Assembly District. Prior to that, he was a policy intern for the Center for Energy Efficiency and Renewable Technologies in Sacramento. He has a bachelor's degree in political science from UCLA, go Bruins, and he is currently enrolled in the Master of Public Policy program at UCI. His first day is also January 24th. And finally, we've hired Evis Torres, lifelong Costa Mesa resident, as a management aide. Ms. Torres is currently an NICU inpatient unit secretary at Children's Hospital of Orange County. Prior to her work with CHOC, she was right here on the west side for many, many years, probably more than 10, working at Save Our Youth, and really played a strong role in building up our students and our community here. She's got an Associate of Arts degree in Liberal Arts from Golden West College, and she's in the process of enrolling in the university to obtain her bachelor's. So we're looking forward to this great team of constituent services team to be out there helping us to better serve you in our community. Thank you so much. Moving on, we'll go to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon in one motion. There'll be no separate discussion on these items unless members of the City Council, staff, or the public request specific items to be discussed and are removed from the consent calendar for discussion. Do the council members have any items they wish to be pulled? Anyone else? 14. Okay, anyone else? Okay, Madam Clerk, does the public request any items be pulled?
Yes, Madam Mayor, the public requests item 3 and item 8.
Okay,
3
may I
and
have a
8.
motion and a second?
Move the balance.
Second.
Okay, call for the question. Don't forget your paddles. You have to show Ms. Green.
The motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. And just for I see a lot of students in the audience tonight, and I want to recognize Miss Lee from Newport Harbor High School. I see her out in the audience. Thank you, Miss Lee. She always does a great job of having her students come and learn about local government. So it's nice to see you all here tonight. This is our temporary gigs. We're working on improvements to our city council chambers. Okay, item number 3.
Okay, so.
Oh, hold on. Let me ask.
Oh, sorry.
Ms. Green, to you read the item number 3?
Thank you. Item 3 is the warrant resolution 2610.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so page 2, just to draw everyone's attention, yes, the law firm that won the case against Yellowstone was really expensive, but they were really worth it. So that's $710,000. But then you flip to the other page 2, and we go back to the Jones Mayer law firm, and that amount is like almost $200,000, which happens every 2 weeks. And if you notice, quite a few of these are also sober living lawsuits. And so I just wanted to point this out, that tonight a lot of people are watching television because there's a speech about the wall. All during the holidays, my heart went out to all these homeless young people. And by the way, they were all Americans that I encountered and talked to that were homeless. Not one of them was from California. That doesn't mean they're not from, some aren't, but the ones that I spoke to. In particular, there was a guy from Kansas City that I spoke to 3 times. And all of them I asked, how did you get out here? They had all called a telephone number that was on TV late at night, and their airplane tickets were paid for, and they were flown to Orange County Airport. They were picked up and placed in Costa Mesa sober living homes. The one guy from Kansas, after 3 times, I said, don't you want to go home? I mean, what about your family? It's the holidays. Have you contacted them? He goes, no. He goes, I've got it made here. I can get whatever drugs I want. I can get anything I want to eat, and it's warm enough to just be out here. That was his attitude. He was thrown out of a sober living house called Simple Recovery after 3 months. I'm telling you, we're not going to cure our homeless problem in this city until we get a handle on this. I applaud you for going back to Washington. Anyone that wants to fly up to Sacramento, anybody that can talk to anybody or do anything about this, it's not going to stop until we stop importing people across state lines. It's called human trafficking for people making profit. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the attic brokering piece that we're working on, Ms. Parker. Okay. Item number 8.
Wait, a motion,
oh, I'm
please.
sorry. Is there a motion?
Move the item.
Second.
Call for the question.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Okay, item number 8.
That item was pulled by a member of the public. It's accept work completed under the slurry seal project, city project number 1613.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Taboda.
Good evening, Council. Happy New Year. In months past, and actually more than a year past, I've made various comments up here to City Council being basically critical of staff reports on construction projects because I didn't think they provided enough information for the public or for the council to make decisions. I've had meetings with staff on that, and I want to say and compliment staff because the summaries, and this is just an example, number excuse me, number 8, but there's other summaries today on construction projects, and I want to compliment staff. The summaries, I believe, are much improved. The summary last month on the Placentia medians was much improved, so I want to, again, compliment Public Services and staff there on improving those summaries. I know that there's additional improvements in process on the CIP form that we'll be seeing in a few months. So kudos to staff. I believe in when somebody thinks something that needs to be improved, they should make comments, but also I believe in complimenting staff and people when something has been improved and when something's been done right. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Council?
Second.
May I just say something real quick? I'm obviously support this, but for the folks out there, you know, we just approved in one vote in our consent calendar millions of dollars worth of critical infrastructure. This is a slurry seal project. It's many, many streets. There were other infrastructure projects in our consent calendar. It's really extraordinary. So if you get a chance to actually read those, I think you'll be very impressed with the amount of infrastructure that's going on and supported by the council, but also especially executed by our Public Works Department.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
If I could, since the item has been pulled, I do want to just acknowledge staff also. A number of these public work projects have been paid for with grant money and especially the gas tax fund. So it's glad to see we're directly benefiting from the gas tax here. Thank you.
Okay, call for the question.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Okay, and item number 14 was the last item pulled.
Yes, item number 14 is City Council meeting procedures.
Thank you. I know this is just a receive and file, and some of it seems routine, so I'm not sure I understand why we needed this, but just to clarify and understand a couple things, I'm looking at page 2 under sequence of hearing. It says that the mayor and staff and the applicant will agree on the time limit of the presentation based on the complexity of the issue. I'm just wondering when we're going to be noticed of that, if that's going to be in the staff report, you know, told that the applicant only gets 15 minutes or whatever. I'm just curious if there's going to be some transparency with that. I've never heard of that before. The mayor will have the authority to stop a council member or the mayor pro tem if this part of the meeting is used for anything other than questions. So I'm not sure what that all is about. I don't know what else it would be used for besides questions and answers. But I know we've always had the opportunity to speak up freely up here. I don't think it's ever been abused, so I want to make sure that's not going to be happening. The mayor pro tem and mayor will have an opportunity to ask questions after the council members, but just want to make sure that if council members still have additional questions, opportunities will still be available to ask those questions. Lastly, on page 3, it says we're going to be limited to 5 minutes of speaking time after a motion is on the floor. You know, I just think there needs to be some options available. I think we rarely go beyond that anyways, but if need be, I think we need to be able to extend that and just make sure, depending on the issue, that it's fully vetted. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Well, I don't have a question, but I may comment after we hear from the public.
Okay, we don't have a motion on the floor yet, or public comment. Okay.
I just want to verify that by accepting this for receive and file, we in no way express dissent or assent to what is contained herein. And I guess that would be a question for the city attorney.
Member Barlow? Attorney Barlow?
It is purely a receive and file item, so you're not accepting or dissenting.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think that's the intent. We would have to be accepting because this is the procedures that we are proposing.
That is the procedures that will be followed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, except, if I may, since this is a receive and file, for example, we get requests to take positions on things. I might put a motion, I might ask for a resolution, say that I think we ought to colonize Mars. I certainly wouldn't do that, but, and maybe the council, rather than just voting it down, might just decide to receive and file. It doesn't mean that they think we need to go to Mars. It just means that they're not going to do anything with it. Because were this to be something where we're actually accepting this, then it should be an action item, and that's not agendized that way. This isn't agendized as an action item because as I look at it, there are certain parts that are internally inconsistent because we actually say we're going to follow Robert's rules, but then there are items within here that are not consistent with Robert's rules, but I don't see anything really to be accomplished at this point in belaboring that unless we are formally adopting these as council procedures, because I have some major problems with adopting these as council procedures, certain portions thereof.
Does anyone else have any other questions? At this time, I'll open up for public comment.
I think Councilwoman Guinness expressed my concern over this, that file and receive isn't putting it in action immediately, from what I understand. And it does seem like it should be agendized and be an action item, because there's a lot of changes on here. I think when you're, I have to disagree with Councilman Mansour. There's been many times when people have gone over 5 minutes when they've changed and had a substitution motion. And that 5 minutes on something that is complicated and very important to the city is just a very minute amount of time. And to give up you're muzzling yourself. The council is muzzling themselves by voting for this or accepting this. You have the right to express, and your constituents expect you to have the proper amount of time to express everything on an item. Now, we've had general plans, we've had major issues that have gone for hours, and you know we've sat till 2 o'clock in the morning for some of these issues. So to put a time constraint on that is to put an information block to the public, and I really am not very happy with this. Again, I think it has a problem with transparency. You were voted to express your opinion. I want you to have all the time, all of you, have all the time to express your opinion and not be under some type of time constraint. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this item, please come to the podium. Otherwise, this will be our last speaker.
So I wasn't going to say anything, but after the last speaker, we've all sat in the city council chambers and listened to Jim Rinkheimer rant and rave for 40 minutes at a time about something. So I think it's a great idea if you have some kind of time limitation, and can't the body of the council say, Madam Mayor, could we extend this discussion? So what's the big deal? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll close public comment. Is there a motion? Mayor Pro Tem.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
Madam Mayor?
I have a question for Ms. Barlow, but I will first entertain Councilmember Dennis.
I would just like some clarification, because receive and file normally means, yeah, I got it, I read it, and I'll put it in whatever file I deem appropriate. And it does not normally convey an adoption or an assent. And as a matter of fact, these things, in some, where they do conflict with Robert's rules, they also conflict with our municipal code, in which case we would not only have to agendize these, we would have to post a public notice, we would have to advertise it in the newspaper, and then we would have to post it in the newspaper afterwards, and we would have to have 2 meetings where we addressed it. And so receive and file, I think, is okay, but if there's some other implication here of receive and file that differs from that implication, which I have understood receive and file to mean for all the decades I've been involved in government, both here and elsewhere, I would like to know now.
May I be heard on my motion?
Mayor Pro Tem Stevens.
So it's a new council. We have 7 of us, not 5 anymore. I don't know, am I allowed to say what your statistic is? So Councilmember Reynolds did some calculations, and our meetings in the last year have lasted an average of 5 hours and 23 minutes. The previous year, it was approximately 1 hour less. That was with 5 council members. Now we have 7 council members. If you read Robert's Rules of Order, one of the things that they talk about in the very first couple pages is when you have a small group, you don't need a lot of structure to create transparency and the opportunity for people to speak. When you have a larger group, you require more structure. So the mayor and I put these together so that we would have more transparency and more structure. As it says in the staff report, the mayor presides over the meeting. She has a certain amount of leeway to deal with the structure of the meeting and how it goes. The city attorney has stated that in the legal review that the city attorney was determined that the procedures to be consistent with Robert's Rules of Order, the city's municipal code, and the due process rights of applicants. All of these procedures by motion can be altered as needed. So for example, if somebody needs more than 5 minutes to get their point across, as I sometimes do, you can make a motion to ask for more time. We have when we talk about applicants in this room in November, we had an applicant that went on for almost an hour with the presentation. We don't want that to happen again, or the meetings will last 7 or 8 hours. And the problem with that, ladies and gentlemen of the public, is when a meeting lasts for 7 or 8 hours, or as one of the speakers said, goes on until 1:30 and 2:30 in the morning, that is not a best practice. That is not transparency. That robs the citizens of the opportunity to participate, and it also erodes and degrades the amount of attention and focus that this council and staff can put on a matter. So we both worked on this, and these procedures, we're going to give them a try. And if they don't work out, we'll adjust them. But we're going to give them a try so we avoid the 5 hour and 30-minute meetings and going till 2 o'clock in the morning, because that's not going to work for anybody.
Okay, would the second like to address this?
Yes, real briefly, like I think Mayor Pro Tem said, this is something to have more organized and structure in the meetings. I think one of the notice when I ran for office, I realized how late meetings went, and I thought to myself, as a resident of this city, there's no reason why my city hall meetings should last until 2 in the morning. At that point, it's probably more about bickering than it is about actual substance of the issue. And that's what I ran my campaign on. More transparency, more efficiency in the government. And that's why I'm willing to give this a try. It is something new. And new things are kind of scary sometimes. But it doesn't mean we should not try something out because it's new. I think with 7 members on council, we need a bit more order. And again, if it doesn't work out, go adjust it or go back to before.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Reynolds, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Nope.
Councilmember Marr, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I don't.
Councilmember Mansour.
No, I'm good. I'll speak up.
Okay. Councilmember Guinness, did you have anything else you wanted to
Well, number one, I still don't have an answer to my question. But if indeed we are expecting to adopt these as opposed to just receiving and file, which is what this says and what consistent with what receive and file I have always understood to mean, and which most of the universe understands to mean. If it is not just receiving and filing, I think it's good to try to be more efficient, but I do object because there are in particular, we seem to have changed some of the approach on how we speak. Robert's rules indicate that people will speak, will be recognized to speak in the order they request the floor. We have moved away from that. I don't think it's a terrible problem, but I could see it could be problematic in the future. Robert's rules does not include a 5-minute speaking time per council member for any motion. Well, it doesn't say council member. It does not include that 5-minute limit. It includes 2 10-minute limits, which would be 20 minutes. I certainly hope nobody here intends to do that, but I do not know any other, I'd be interested to know if there are any other cities that impose a limit on council members on discussions. We are here, the business of the city is the deliberative process. We are here to make decisions. There are a lot of times where we have to really hash things out. For example, small lot, we went back and forth a lot. Overlays, we went back and forth. There are times where our discussion goes a lot longer than it needs to be, but there are times when we have lengthy discussions that are really needed to get the best results. Clearly, efficiency is not the only thing that's important to us. We, for example, have added the patriotic song at the beginning of the council. I think it's a kind of nice thing, and I think it's good to remind ourselves of our patriotic values. But those patriotic values include transparency, participation, open government, discussion of the issues. And if we're going to have songs about our love for our American values and then quash discussion, then there's something wrong. So I still would like an answer to my question.
Council, Mayor Pro Tem Stevens, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No.
Okay.
It's under debate.
Right, we're going to.
No, I know. I've read that. Well, wait a minute. One of the things I wanted to add is one of the things that was mentioned by one of the council members is, what about the section where we have questions and so forth and so on? And I wanted to be very specific and explain what the issue is.
I understand what that is.
So sometimes what will happen in our meetings is we'll have that kind of section after the staff report, and council members are not only asking questions, but they're making statements, and they're commenting on the agenda item. And that takes a long time, and that's what we're trying to curtail. And there's a reason for that, is debate should only occur in reference to a motion. And at that point in time, there's no motion on the floor. So if we're spending a lot of time debating before there's a motion on the floor, again, that increases the length of our meeting, because then you just debate again later when a motion is on the floor, and the statements that you make at that point in time may not even be pertinent because that motion may never be made. So we spent a lot of time on this, and I would just ask the other council members to respect that and give us an opportunity to put this in play. And if it causes problems, then we're open to adjusting it.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments from everyone. One of the things that we did, we passed out to all the new council members and the existing council members the Robert's Rules of Order. I've been sitting on this council for 10 years. No one ever gave me this book. I would usually look it up online if I had a question. But we went ahead and did that so that everyone could get educated on what are the proper procedures in a city council meeting or any kind of meeting. And we prepared this detailed memo for the exact reason to be transparent. The mayor has discretion to run the meeting, but I wanted to make sure, Mayor Pro Tem Stevens and I, we wanted to make sure that we were transparent about what we were expecting from the council members during the meeting so that we could have not only a more efficient meeting, but so that the public who's here taking time out of their day can participate better. As Mayor Pro Tem Stevens mentioned, a lot of times before we get to the public comment even, there's all kinds of opinions being given up here. There's comments that go to the action that we might be taking after the public comment. And that causes the public to be delayed in giving us their position on things. And so we are unable to make an informed decision after public comment if we've already made up our minds before the public has had a chance to speak. That's true transparency, not making up your mind before the public has a chance to speak. So that's what we are, our motivation was. Also, there are numerous examples, and this is a good research project for these high school students that are sitting in the room here. There are numerous examples of government agencies where the time of the body that's governing is limited. Councilmember Mansour was a former assembly member. He knows this because there was limitations on the time that members of the assembly or the Senate would be allowed to speak during committee meetings, etc. So there's plenty of, I think, precedents for limiting the time. I don't want to squelch anyone's free speech rights. I'm a strong advocate of the right and the freedom to speech. I value our Constitution. But we do have to be able to have an efficient meeting, and if the council, as a majority, wants to extend the time for anyone, always that will be entertained.
May I make another comment?
This was just sort of to guide. Also, we have 3 new council members and we don't have a city manager right now. And we have an acting city manager who has been literally working around the clock on a whole variety of matters that are of an urgent nature. And so we wanted to also give our new city council members, some guidance on helping us to be better members of the city council. One of the things that's really important, I think, in here is that from now on, the public will be informed about staff reports and about information long before the day of the meeting. Sometimes we get these things, we call it the red folder. This is put at our dais the night of the meeting when we sit down, and we haven't had a chance to read any of this. What does that mean? The public also has not had a chance to read it. So we want to have more transparency, more openness by making sure that applicants don't send in something the last minute, the last day, and nobody has a chance to really thoroughly vet it before they're making a decision on it. So we're just trying to give more opportunity for the public to participate and for the council members to participate in a meaningful way. So I appreciate the discussion. City Attorney Barlow, one question I do have is, and the city attorney did review this extensively and has confirmed that these are all lawful under our current municipal ordinances and Robert's rules. So one question I have is that, just to make sure I'm correct, that the mayor has the discretion to lead the meeting so long as it's in compliance with our municipal policies and our Robert's rules, correct?
That is correct, and the council is permitted under our code to deviate from Robert's rules where it deems it appropriate.
Okay, thank you. And do you have any recommendations right now that we need to take any different kind of action in order for us to implement these procedures in the meeting?
I do not. Certainly, if the council would like to formally adopt them, then there wouldn't be a question, but I don't see the need for that.
Okay, so my question is then, follow up to that, if we agree that I'm going to implement these procedures and leading the meeting, and some council member up here decides just because they want to not agree to these procedures, what is the remedy?
You would call them out of order. However, these receiving and filing these would not give them the force of adopted policy of the council.
Okay, so if we run into a problem, we can address it at some later date.
Correct.
Hopefully we can start off the year by working really collaboratively together.
May I make another
Okay,
comment,
call
please?
for the question.
I'd like to make a comment, please.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to have the floor, please.
Okay, Councilmember Mansour.
Thank you. I don't think that using Sacramento as Sacramento, let me put it this way, Sacramento is no shining example of free speech. They cut off your microphone if they disagree with you. They do limit your time, and it's to the detriment of the public. 9 times out of 10, or if not more than that, they make up their mind before it's even heard in the public. So I don't think we want to follow that example. But my concern is up here is that it's being implied by the prior comments that, sometimes we may make up our minds before we have the hearing. And I do not do that. Maybe others up here do that. But I like to hear everyone's comment first. But I think there's some good discussion that takes place. You have to ask questions, but that does not mean we have our minds made up.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, because one of the other issues is that we want to make sure that all the council members meet with staff and do proper agenda review before the meeting, so that our meetings are not bogged down with questions that really should be asked in advance of the meeting, that are more technical questions and that cause the meeting to be delayed. So with that, I will call for the question.
Madam, the motion carries 5-0. Council members Mansour and Guinness voting no.
That's 5-2.
5-2.
5-2.
Okay. We will now move on to public hearing item number 1.
Thank you. Civic openness and negotiations, coin ordinance. First public hearing of the adoption of the 2018 to 2020 Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between the City of Costa Mesa and the Costa Mesa Police Association, and the adoption of the 2018 to 2022 Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Costa Mesa and the Costa Mesa Police Management Association. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Mr. Brown who's going to make the presentation?
Got it. Thank you very much. I'm a little under the weather tonight, Your Honor, but I just want to say welcome to the council, to Honorable Mayor Foley, Mayor Pro Tem Stevens, and the new council members. My name is Peter Brown, and tonight I'm going to make a presentation pursuant to your Civic Openness and Negotiations Ordinance. Costa Mesa has adopted this ordinance so that prior to the adoption of any memorandums of understanding, which also mean collective bargaining agreements, which provide the terms and conditions of employment between the city and the various labor associations in the city council will conduct 2 hearings. The first one is tonight, and where the council will hear the fiscal impacts of the negotiated agreements. In this case, it's the agreement with the Police Officers Association and the agreement with the Police Management Association. The council will have an opportunity to make any comments. Members of the public will have an opportunity to make any comments. And then the hearing will be closed. And then next week, there's another hearing, same presentation, with the opportunity for the council to get that feedback. And then at that point, the council will have an opportunity to vote on the negotiated agreements. Now, these are agreements that were negotiated over the last several months, in which tentative agreements were reached between the city and the 2 labor associations, and in both cases, the labor associations voted to ratify these contracts. So now, for these contracts to go into effect, the council would have to approve them, but the approval process in the City of Costa Mesa provides for this ordinance process and this hearing process. So tonight is the first public hearing on both of these agreements, and as I've indicated, labor negotiations have taken place between the city and both the police officers and the police managers. The Police Officers Association includes police officers and police sergeants. The Police Managers Association includes lieutenants and captains, and they're the people who protect the city, provide the police services in the city. The city has followed the coin ordinance, which means that all of the fiscal impacts of these collective bargaining agreements have been put on the city's website, so members of the public would have an opportunity to look at those fiscal impacts and be prepared to address the council if they wish to do so with respect to the impacts of these agreements. You'll see the terms of these agreements are for the Costa Mesa Police Association, which is the Police Officers Association, and police officers and sergeants. It's a 2-year term going back to July 1st, 2018. The primary economic impact of these agreements relates to health insurance. The council, through the negotiations process, the health insurance provisions provide that there will be an increase from $631 to $1,375 effective on July 1, 2018. And the maximum that someone can actually cash out if they opt out of health insurance or take benefits that are less than the provision that's in the contract is $846. And you can see next year, effective July 1, 2019, in the next fiscal year, it will increase to $2,119 with a maximum cash out of $1,060. On this slide, you can see the fiscal impact of this collective bargaining agreement, which is $4,539,367. The details of this fiscal impact are laid out on the website that show all the impacts, which include all the impacts on CalPERS and the retirement costs associated with this, with these increases. And for fiscal 2018-19, you can see the fiscal impact is $1,133,856. So if Council at this point has any questions on this MOU, I'll answer them, or I'll certainly wait till the end of the presentation, because we're going to now talk about the Police Management Association. Okay. So the police managers actually negotiated a 4-year term, and you'll see that the Police Managers Association contract goes through 2022, and they're getting salary increases of 3% effective January 1, 2019, 3% effective July 1, 2019, and then 3% at July 1, 2020 and 21. But you'll also see here on the next slide that these employees are also picking up retirement contributions of 3% on the same days as the salary increases for the first 3 salary increases. So the first 3 salary increases from the last slide are 3%, and the employees are now paying 3% towards their retirement contributions, so that their retirement contribution will now be at 14%, which is the same as the Police Officers Association. They too will get the same health insurance increase up to $2,119 effective on January 1, 2019. And they have a couple of smaller economic impacts through a technology allowance of $75 a month, which is available for those who qualify for the technology allowance. And then there's a professional development allowance available for just the police lieutenants, which is up to $1,000 per fiscal year. The fiscal impact of this contract is $1,738,767, and for this year, it's $126,921. In addition to these fiscal impacts, these collective bargaining agreements have been rewritten in many ways to provide improvements in a lot of different areas that are non-economic, and it was a fairly collaborative negotiations with both associations where changes were made, and the city now benefits from better contracts with its labor associations. At this point, I'll conclude the presentation. We have staff recommendations to adopt the presentation, to adopt the MOUs, but the council, per its COIN ordinance, cannot do that until after the second hearing, which is scheduled for next week.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Reynolds, do you have any questions?
No, I had the opportunity to meet with Assistant City Manager Letourneau and some staff to get my questions answered, so no additional questions.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Chavez, do you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay, Councilmember Marr, any questions?
Ms. Letourneau, could you, sorry I can't see you from here, could you explain how this process would have been different if COIN was not in effect?
So without COIN, we would not have put the proposals and the fiscal analysis after every step in the negotiation process on the website. COIN actually put that into place. Prior to COIN, we would only have 1 public hearing. COIN had 2. Also, COIN also requires that the council designate an attorney as well as a staff member to be part of the process.
Any other questions?
So my impression is that this process was significantly longer than it needed to be because of COIN, is that right?
Yes, COIN also has a 30-day delay at the beginning of the process where the council decides to move forward. We bring it on a public agenda. They designate the individuals to represent the city in the negotiation process. And then for 30 days, we can't talk to either side. So it does delay the process significantly.
So my understanding from meeting with you previously is that we're voting on this, but ultimately we don't have the ability to change it without throwing a total wrench in the negotiations that have been conducted over the last year. So it's really, we don't have a ton of options right now, is that right?
Correct, because we have tentative agreements that were already approved by the council and the associations.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Mansour, any questions?
Yes. Excuse me. I have a question for Mr. Brown, and I think you know what my question is going to be. Well, you will in a second. I know you know. But anyways, it kind of ties into our previous discussion where it was implied that, you know, we may have technical questions that we ask staff in meetings, and certainly we've asked many questions of Mr. Brown and staff about this through this whole process. But sometimes I'm going to ask the question anyways in public. even though I know the answer to it, I think the public should know. So I think what Ms. Foley said was inaccurate, that, you know, just because we meet with staff, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to ask less questions in public. So anyways, my question has to do with the zipper clause, Mr. Brown. And so if you could explain, well, first of all, if you can give a short overview of what the zipper clause is, and to be fair, the pros and cons to the city, and which of these, I think at least one of them does contain the zipper clause, and if you could just give a brief overview of that, please.
Sure. Councilmember Mansour, a zipper clause is a provision contained in a collective bargaining agreement that essentially zips up the terms of the agreement during the term of the MOU. Now, the contract itself zips itself up, meaning all of the provisions in the MOU, once you've agreed to them, like for 2 years with the police officers or 4 years with the police managers, neither side can demand to bargain on any of those topics. And if either side wants to bargain on any of those topics, they would have to be through an agreement. What the zipper clause does do is that if there's something not addressed in the collective bargaining agreement but would be a term or condition of employment which the city or one of the associations would like to negotiate on during the middle of the term of the collective bargaining agreement, the zipper clause prevents that. It would require a mutual agreement of both sides. So there's an advantage to a zipper clause, and that advantage is it provides a level of security for both sides to know that neither side can demand to bargain over anything within the scope of bargaining. But there's a disadvantage to a zipper clause, and the disadvantage is the same thing, which is if there becomes a reason, if a reason occurs why this council might want to address something within the scope of bargaining, it can't during the term of the contract with a zipper clause. So it cuts both ways. It has advantages and disadvantages to both sides. And the zipper clause existed in the collective bargaining agreement of the police association prior to us even starting the negotiations process.
Okay, so currently it's in the police association, but it's not in the management association?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Mansour, any other questions? Okay. Councilmember Guinness, any questions? Mayor Pro Tem Stevens, any questions?
Yes, briefly. So in the police contract, the police association contract, the primary, if not exclusive, increase relates to an increase in the healthcare bucket?
Yes.
So if you could just explain to the public, a lot of people are concerned about pensions.
Sure.
And the increase in either increase or not increase in our unfunded pension liability. Can you explain about PERSable income and whether or not this this health care increase is PERSable and what that means to that
Sure.
issue?
Absolutely. So the city of Costa Mesa, like most cities in California, contracts with the California Public Employees Retirement System for the provision of pensions for the employees in the city. Base salary and other forms of compensation go into the calculation of your pension. And we all know that the pensions in California have been rising steadily over the last few years. Health insurance does not go into pension. This increase, while it's a substantial increase to health insurance, it is no increase to your unfunded pension liability because the health insurance dollars do not go into the calculation of pension. When you use the term PERSable dollars, that's any form of compensation which goes into the calculation of pension. Health insurance dollars don't.
Thank you. Okay, at this time I'd like to open up the item for public comment. If you would like to come to the podium, each speaker will be given 3 minutes, and if you could line up at the podium. Good evening, Mr. Taboda.
Evening, Ralph Taboda. I didn't read the whole thing, I admit, but I'm very concerned, and this was true in the police contract a couple of years ago, as mentioned by Mr. Brown. The largest percentage increases for medical benefits. between last year, 17-18, and this year, 18-19. It's a 300% increase. Certainly would have preferred a ramping up to the increase on the medical benefits that the city is paying or giving to the employees. We're going from $38,000 annual last year to 38 million, where am I? 38,000 to 153 million. That's about a 300% increase. I know this is pretty much of a done deal, but I think it would have been better to ramp up that increase versus having it all in 1 year. I'm certainly glad that the management association, those employees now are increasing their pensions, their employee portion to 14%. That's something the pension committee advocated 4 or 5 years ago. The city implemented it with the fire and with the police in prior years' negotiations, so I'm pleased about that. Also, I guess as I think I understand it, because the staff summary refers to the Police Management Association, that's where the salary increases come through. And the only thing this is doing with the Police Association, with the officers, is for the increased medical benefits. If that's the case, somebody would just confirm that, I guess. I guess that's it. I guess I would have preferred also that the increased employee contributions towards their pensions, it's 3% per year, paralleling their salary increases, if those would have been increased. Also, for years, employees have been paying 5%, which is the best deal in town, and would have preferred that they increase their contributions to the pensions faster than over 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to this item? Please come to the podium. Okay, Ms. Parker, you'll be our last speaker.
So, along the lines of what Mr. Spitzer was talking about last night, this is for all, especially the young people. There's a misconception that because we live in Orange County, we have less crime than other places. But from the statistics that I heard last night, which I hope you'll go on and listen to, the crime rate in Orange County is up 17% the last year, and it only went up 2% in LA County, and I forgot what the other ones were. But Orange County went up higher than any place else in the state of California. We're not the Orange County behind the orange curtain anymore. We are in trouble down here. You think we can't have riots? We had a riot in Anaheim. We have Homeland Security issues here. We have heroin coming into the Newport Harbor. We have a lot of problems here. And I believe that our police have been under siege, which I do not understand why you would do in the middle of a heroin epidemic. I think the city has abused our police department. So I want to say, give them whatever they want. They've been neglected for years. I'm just appalled at the way we treat our first responders here. I'm shocked, actually. I think we should become a mecca, a community that embraces the first responders and give the police some police dogs. They don't need, please, they don't have pensions and they do not need, extra medical, whatever. Give them whatever they need. Give them a narcotics division. And, and I feel that we messed up the city a bit for all the young people. So I hope you'll get involved and get on board because I feel the police need all the help they can get. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll close public comment. Is there a motion, council?
I'll move to approve the recommended action.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, go down the list. Councilmember Reynolds, maker of the motion. Do you have any comments?
No additional comments. I'll clarify the recommended action. So I'm moving that we hold the first public hearing regarding the proposed MOU between the City of Costa Mesa and the Costa Mesa Police Association, and that we schedule the second public hearing for final approval at our next meeting on January 15th, as required by COIN.
Thank you. And the second concurs, Councilmember Moore?
That's correct.
Okay. And any comments, Councilmember Chavez?
None, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Marr?
In fact, there is medical for canines, but there's no pension, so I guess we're halfway there. But no, I mean, I just do want to comment that having met with staff and reviewed how this process went through, it just seems like it was extraordinarily long. And to Ms. Parker's point about doing right by our first responders, it seems like we should look at revising the COIN process so we can make this move a little bit faster and not take up a year of staff's time.
Councilmember Mansour?
It is a long process, and there's a benefit to that. There's transparency, there's openness, there's discussion. Everyone can see what's going on. Does it take a lot of work? Yes, a lot of time and effort, but I think it's worth it because everyone gets to see what's going on and where your tax dollars are being spent. Whether you agree or disagree, everyone gets to see it.
Councilmember Guinness? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Stevens?
No, ma'am.
All right, I'll be supporting the motion. I think that this was a very collaborative process, and I appreciate all the good work by the staff and by our police association and their team. It's what I call frugal but functional. I mean, we have a need to be competitive, and we have, in order to maintain our police department, in order to recruit. We're still understaffed in our police department. I know that the chief is working with his team very diligently to address that. So we, I think, now have a good agreement. We did not increase our unfunded pension liability, which is critical to this agreement. And our police officers and their families are going to receive the health benefits so that their families are protected while they're protecting us. So I am proudly going to support the motion. All those in favor, please raise your packet or your paddle.
The motion passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item is there's no old business. So we have new business item number 1.
Madam Mayor, I need to leave the dais and leave the room for this item.
And I will give the staff report, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
All right. First up, the title is Amendment of Contract for City Attorney Services.
Mayor and members of the council, Jones & Mayer has proposed an amendment to the retainer agreement to designate Kim Barlow as the city attorney and adding Tarquin Preziosi and Yolanda Summerhill as assistant city attorneys. And these changes do not affect there's no increase in cost as a result of this change. It's merely a change in staff. And so staff recommends that the City Council approve amendment number 2, amending the retainer agreement between the city and Jones & Mayer to reflect this change. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Reynolds, any questions?
No questions.
Councilmember Chavez?
No, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Marr?
So I'm looking at term 7 in the contract that the city shall formally review the performance of services by Jones & Mayer under this agreement on an annual basis. When was the last time we did review the performance of Jones & Mayer?
The performance was reviewed last year, but it was not completed.
Okay. So does that mean that both the proposed assistant city attorneys have also not been reviewed, like had performance reviews as part of that process?
We don't review the individual city attorney assistants, just the firm.
Just the firm?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess, yeah, I'll wait till comments. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Mansour, any questions? Councilmember Guinness? No. Mayor Pro Tem Stevens?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we'll open this item up for public comment. Does anyone wish to speak to this item? Killing me.
Okay, so, it's really annoying that you guys talk about transparency because I almost feel sometimes like I'm watching that A Few Good Men movie where Jack Nicholson says, the truth, you can't handle the truth. The city attorney, I'm sorry, but we keep getting blocked from information. I've gotten so many letters where I've put in a public request record, and I get back a letter that says, you can't have this because attorney-client privilege or something. So recently, in December, I decided to have an experiment. So I'm really happy to have this new lawyer up here, or the old lawyer returning, because I feel like Mr. Duarte was involved in a lot of cover-up nonsense, my personal opinion. And, okay, so I had an experiment in December where 2 people put in the same public request record, word for word. The other person got the information. I did not. I have all the proof. I have all the documentation. That is not transparency. There is a problem. So please, you know, everyone get together. This transparency thing has got to go across the board, and I'm really happy to have the new attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other public members, I'll close public comment. Council, is there a motion?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stevens?
I move to adopt the staff's recommendation to name Kim Barlow as the city attorney and Tarquin Preziosi and Yolanda Summerhill as assistant city attorneys.
Second. Okay. Council Member Reynolds, or I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Stevens, any comment?
Oh, yeah, just briefly. So I've been very vocal about the city attorney services. I've made a couple of motions in that regard to try to do a request for proposal. I lost those motions. Kim Barlow, some of you may know this, but a little bit of history. She was our city attorney before, in the first quarter of 2011, when the city adopted a layoff policy, pink slips for the employees. She wasn't willing to sign off on that, and then she was removed as our city attorney as a result. We've had, since that time, a lot of legal problems, I think, associated with the quality of services that we've received from our city attorney. In working with Kim Barlow as sort of the de facto city attorney over the last couple of months, I find her to be a very strong attorney, very strong-willed, which is good for the city, willing to take a position, willing to say when she thinks we're going in the wrong direction. And I think that this is a great move for the city. And so I support this motion, obviously, because I made it.
Councilmember Guinness, did you want to, as the second, make comment?
There. I have to say that I always appreciated Ms. Barlow's willingness to speak up and tell the council when she thought they were wrong. And I certainly hope that she will do this. I would like to see city attorneys who are bulldogs on behalf of the city, not bulldogs on behalf of the city council, not bulldogs on behalf of any individual council member or even the mayor, but bulldogs on behalf of the people of Costa Mesa. And so I'm hoping that Ms. Barlow will continue in the manner that she was when she was our city attorney in the past, where she will keep us on the straight and narrow, and when we wander off, she'll tell us. Years ago, there was a city attorney who told me, I said, if I'm going to mess up in public, and I want you to jump in and stop me. And he said, well, I don't want to embarrass you publicly. Of course I don't want to be embarrassed publicly, but I think, and I hope I speak for all of us, we'd rather be embarrassed publicly than end up losing in court. And that's what I would like, not that I want her to embarrass us, but I do hope she will be willing to jump in. All of these 3 people will be willing to jump in with both this body, the Planning Commission, and any of our other bodies when we're going astray and keeping us on the straight and narrow. Because the city attorney's job is not just to defend you when you go to court, but make sure you follow the rules so you don't end up there in the first place.
Thank you. Councilmember Reynolds?
I share the sentiments of Mayor Pro Tem Stevens and Councilmember Guinness. I really appreciate that Ms. Barlow has a long history with the city. That knowledge has been very helpful in the meetings I've had with her. She's been well prepared at the meetings I've been at so far and very quick to follow up on questions. So happily support the motion.
Thank you. Councilmember Chavez?
I did, but my colleagues took all the good words, so I'll pass.
Councilmember Maher?
I'll be supporting the motion. I do just want to comment that I was surprised by the contract that we have that's entirely open-ended. So it's there's no not to exceed amount, there's no cap, there's no expiry date. It is just a however much Jones Mayor needs to charge us. And I don't know how many contracts like that we actually have in the city. But certainly doing reviews on an annual basis and potentially finding a point at which we do decide to put out an RFP and renegotiate a contract, I think would be a good thing. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mansour.
Ready to vote?
Councilmember McGinnis already spoke. Mayor Pro Tem Stevens already spoke. So I'll be supporting the motion for all the same reasons expressed here. Mayor Pro Tem Stevens and I are both lawyers. We tend to be very strong in our positions, and I have found the City Attorney Barlow willing to take us on, so that's a good sign because we will get to the right answer that way. Also, I do think that it's not the right time, given that we don't have a city manager. We're currently recruiting for a city manager, and I don't think it's the right time to cause any kind of a disruption with regard to a request for proposals for a new city attorney. So I think this is a good interim, and when we have our new city manager come on board, we can have a discussion about whether we want to do something different at that time. But I'm pleased so far with Ms. Barlow's willingness to take on a lot of challenges over the last couple of months and really help us and give us good advice. So I'll be supporting the motion. Call for the question.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. See, this is working okay.
Haven't had anything big.
It's the hardest on me. Okay, new business, item number 2.
Ad hoc committee formation for recruitment of a new city manager.
Okay. This item, I've asked for us to bring this item forward. We, as you know, we don't have a city manager. We've begun the recruitment process, and we hired a recruiting firm to help us to spread a wide net and to gather resumes and gather qualified applicants in order to help us to pick the right city manager that's right for Costa Mesa at this time. We also have a survey, and I want to make sure that everyone knows about this. We'd love to get all of your input here in the room. It would be a really valuable service to us as a city. There's a survey that's posted on the city website that you can take, and you can help us to define what are the qualifications, what are the skills, what kind of person do you want to be our next city manager here for the city of Costa Mesa. And so maybe Mr. Dodero, you might be able to forward that out to all of our government teachers in Newport Mesa, because that would be really valuable for us to collect that input. And then for the rest of the community, please fill out the survey. But we need to have a team in place to work, to try to work with the recruiter, and under our current policies, we require the city council to vote on that team, and I am proposing that team to be our new consultant, former Newport Beach city manager, and ACCOC advisor Dave Kiff, and Arliss Reynolds, council member from District 5, and Mayor Pro Tem Stevens. And if there are any questions, we'll take questions at this time. Councilmember Reynolds.
No questions.
Okay, Councilmember Chavez.
None, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Marr.
No questions.
Councilmember Mansour. Councilmember Guinness.
Is this, as outlined here, are these the only responsibilities that the transition team will have, or are there other responsibilities that this ad hoc committee will have that aren't outlined in this memo? Because it's pretty well confined to the city manager recruitment.
That's correct.
And the ad hoc committee will have no other responsibilities or activities.
It's all specific to the city manager recruitment.
Okay. And then the other question I have is, does the survey explain what the city manager does? Because I venture to guess that probably fairly good percentage of the people who would be going on to get that service have no clue as to what the city manager does.
You know, did you have your meeting with our consultant yet?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you can follow up with him because it's his survey. It does not explain what the city manager does, but I think that's a good point. In fact, someone posted that on my Facebook page when I posted the survey, and then I did a little short summary in a nutshell. So maybe we can work on getting a summary. We don't want it to be too long. Just, you know, a short little squib about what does a city manager do.
Mayor,
they help us to.
We can add it to our website where the link is for
Okay,
the
perfect.
survey, so we could do that.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Stevens.
No questions.
Okay, we'll open this item up for public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Please come to the podium.
Thank you. This is what I was addressing earlier, that last week when I received my notification that when I asked for the transition team and any ad hoc activities, that it came back 0. My question is on this survey, will it be made to the public, open to the public, since the public submitted it? Will be public? Okay. And then the other thing I'd like to also address is that on the members on the transition team, when you said that in 15 days you hired and had out notices for people to be hired, I'm just wondering why for the openings, some of the really important openings on the city like HR, why are we dragging our feet like we are? I would rather have the 15 days and the HR people filled so that that staff could in fact be like a domino and have some of the empty positions that are really important, not these new positions that we've never had and have no idea where they're going. In fact, didn't even know they were going to be. So, you know, I'm hoping that this is open, and if this part of the transition team, this is going to be it, is just the recruitment of the city manager, I'd like to wish that Dave Kiff somehow could arrange with PERS or whatever his retirement is, because Costa Mesa could use Dave Kiff. Thank you.
Using Dave Kiff, just to clarify, he is helping us with this. He can't do it. Good evening.
Didn't really mean to speak on this, but from my experiences at City Hall, not the most memorable is one. One thing that I would like the city manager to do is to be open. I've came up a couple of times hoping to just have a dialogue and conversation, and unfortunately, Costa Mesa's finest came up to escort me right back downstairs. Not a good thing. Didn't appreciate that. I mean, you can say transparency, but it's really not that. It's just humanity. Is he willing to sit, listen, and talk? I mean, we all are different. We all have our own little agendas in our head, perhaps, but just somebody that's willing to sit down and listen. Don't have to agree with me or anybody else, but just sit down and listen. So I hope that comes across, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wish to speak to this item? Please come to the podium.
Hi, good evening. I'm Rick Huffman. Happy New Year, somebody said earlier. So great. I'm so glad the holidays are over.
We can't, okay, hold on. I'm going to pause your time because we can't really hear you. Is your microphone on?
I'm sorry, I got a little sore throat, so
okay,
I'll speak up.
Okay, there we go.
And so I'll be trying to get around to writing my recommendations for a city manager, but I encourage the ad hoc committee to really dig into this and spend a lot of time. And I'm interested in a city manager that's concerned about some really crucial issues for me the last 4 or 5 years that I've been active in city affairs. And so a big thing is quality of life, future development of the city. And so I'd like to see somebody that comes from the area of having strong urban planning skills. And I know there's lots of other issues, budgets and public safety and all these other things, but true to my heart is urban planning. The physical development of the city has long-term effects on our quality of life. And so, I would suggest, since I think we all worked really hard, and the results of the election put a very progressive group of people on the dais, and I'm really encouraged about that. And so I would like to see a city manager who kind of shares progressive views. I've heard great things about city manager and mayor in the city of Long Beach. They've done a lot of great things there. I think looking for examples up and down the state of really effective city governments, and look for that as a model to try to reproduce here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will close public comment. Council, is there a motion?
I move the recommended action that we approve the formation of an ad hoc transition team to assist with recruitment of a new city manager with the following people: Dave Kiff, Arliss Reynolds, John Stevens, and Katrina Foley as part of the ad hoc team.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Councilmember Chavez, did you have any comments you wanted to add?
Yes, really briefly, I think we're trying to clarify some points made last council meeting about the transition team, be more transparent with the public so you guys know exactly what's going on. In compliance with the Brown Act, there's going to be 3 people on city council in this group. We're doing so as well to comply with that law as well. I would love to have been in this group, but like I said, you got to follow the law sometimes. And I'm excited to see what we find in our search for a new city manager.
Thank you. Councilmember Reynolds? Any further comment?
No
It's
further
not
comment.
required.
Yeah, happy to be on the list.
Okay. Councilmember Marr?
No comments.
Councilmember Mansauer? Councilmember Guinness? Mayor Pro Tem Stevens?
No.
Okay, I have nothing further. I look forward to getting to work. Call for the question.
Motion passes 6-1 with Councilmember Mansour voting no.
Okay. We will now move on to item number 3.
Thank you. This is introduction of first reading of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Costa Mesa, California, amending Section 2-165, bidding required exceptions of Article 2 purchasing of Chapter 5 finance of Title 2 administration of the Costa Mesa Municipal Code. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Telford?
Yes, hello. If you prefer, I have a very brief overview of this ordinance. Finance staff have been working over the past 6 months on updating our purchasing policy, really with a focus on making improvements to make it more practical and reasonable for conducting city business. Our recommendation in this ordinance for consideration is to allow for additional exceptions to be made at the direction of council, either through a minute action or through a resolution, really in order to conduct business when there's urgency or inefficiencies that would happen as a result of doing formal procurements. But also to allow for co-op agreements and for quote unquote piggybacking other government contracts, perhaps county or state contracts, with the result of ultimately saving the city money. A lot of organizations have done procurements that allow, that they've already determined the lowest bidder, and we can utilize those and not only gain efficiencies internally by saving staff time, but also saving on city costs. So in conclusion, the staff recommend introducing the first reading of this ordinance, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Councilmember Reynolds, any questions?
Yes, so one quick question. The language I think I heard you just say was through a minute action or resolution. That would be the pathway to use any of these exemptions. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct. The way we foresee this particular piece of the municipal code working is staff would submit a agenda report to council. It would be agendized on, more than likely on consent, depending on the magnitude of the item. We would justify why we believe that the exception should be made, and then the entire council would vote on the item. We could also, depending on the item, add a resolution if it was necessary, but we wanted to make sure that we had the flexibility to be able to do a minute action as well.
And one other quick follow-up question. I had asked you about precedent on this. Can you share what you had found on that?
Sure. In a lot of our research in just trying to find efficiencies in the purchasing policy as it currently stands today, we actually found that our exception list, this is section 2-165 of our municipal code, really is quite limited compared to most organizations. We really don't have any exceptions that give us the ability to comply with state or federal changes in legislature, at least in an urgency capacity. We don't have any exceptions that allow, if we have something that's just impractical to go out and do a full RFP, a competitive bid process. Sometimes we're forced to because our municipal code requires it. This change doesn't do anything other than limit the necessity to do a formal bid. We would still do our due diligence to verify that whatever contractor we were recommending was vetted either through an informal process, and it would still have to come to council for approval just like any other contract within the limits that are already prescribed in our purchasing policy. So from a precedent perspective, it really just opens up those possibilities. It doesn't set any precedent to where it can, at least not that we're aware of, it can be abused, that would create potential issues down the line. It really is to address urgency issues or impracticalities that we don't otherwise allow exceptions for today.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, Councilmember Chavez?
None, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Mar?
No questions.
Councilmember Mansour? Councilmember Guinness?
Question I had is we in the past have piggybacked on other contracts. There are certain, say, purchasing co-ops, government purchasing co-ops, and similar other organizations. So does this just expand our ability to do that, or were we not supposed to be doing that when we did it in the past?
So our existing purchasing policy at times kind of waivers. In some places of the policy, it specifically allows it. In some places, it implies it. What we're recommending tonight is that we formally add it to our municipal code so that there's no questions moving forward, and we truly can take advantage of the competitiveness of co-op agreements, GSAs, and piggybacking.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Stevens?
One quick question. Just briefly, what's the difference between a minute action and a resolution, and when do you use one as opposed to the other?
That's probably more a question for our attorney.
City Attorney Barlow?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council. A minute action is simply a motion and a second vote by the council. There's no formal document that gets signed like a resolution. We would only use a resolution where it was necessary because of the particular kind of contract involved.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, I'll open this item up for public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Seeing no one, close public comment. And council, is there a motion?
Approve.
Second.
Okay. Does anyone have any further discussion, or should we call for the question? Call for the question. See, our
Motion
rules are
carries 7-0.
flexible. Okay. At this time, thank you. I will take additional council member committee reports, comments, and suggestions, and I'm just going to start with Councilmember Mansour and run down the row. Okay.
Thank you all for being here today.
And I just want to remind everyone, on Fridays, I have meetings with constituents. So if you'd like to meet, please contact Janet Hauser at City Hall, and she'll schedule a time. I'm really enjoying the process, and I look forward to working with our new team. And thanks, everyone, for getting us started here with a great new year. Mayor Pro Tem?
No, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
I'll just add one thing. Councilmember Guinness had mentioned the rain that's coming. We do have sandbags available in, I believe, 3 locations: City Hall, the Sanitary District, West Wilson location, and do we have it at the fire station on Placentia as well? Yeah.
It's there, but those are the 2 primary
Okay,
locations.
come to City Hall or Sanitary District for your sandbags.
Nothing except for I hope to see everybody out at Priceless Pets, and if you've had an empty spot in your home and in your heart and you're prepared to give somebody a home and take on that responsibility of a new family member, please come out. You may find someone who will win your heart.
Okay, Acting City Manager Letourneau, did you have any report?
Yes, I have 2 reports. I'll be brief. But I want to let the community know an update on the I-405 improvement project. This week, Fairview Road will be reduced to 2 lanes in each direction between Augusta Street and the northbound I-405 ramps. The lane reductions will be in place from 9 to 3 p.m. daily through Friday. And they're necessary to remove the vegetation in the center of the medians in preparation for the median removal. So once the median is removed on both sides of the bridge, traffic on Fairview will be shifted to one side in anticipation of a partial bridge demolition in the coming months. So I just want to advise everybody about that. And also, the Lions Park projects were mentioned earlier, but I have some important updates to share. Phase 1 of the Lions Park projects includes the new library and the 1-acre park, and it is my pleasure to tell you that this project is on schedule and on budget, and nothing makes me happier than to say that. And the opening of the library is April 26th at 10 a.m., but in order to prepare the new library for the opening and complete this phase, the County of Orange is planning to close the current Donald Duggan Library in Lions Park this Friday, January 11th. However, we're doing everything we can to provide some services in the meantime. Mesa Verde Library will continue to be open. We are opening the computer labs here at the Senior Center, and the hours are posted on our website, but basically every day, including Saturdays, we will have hours in which the public can come use the computers. Also, there's going to be a book share cart at the Downtown Recreation Center where patrons can return and check out books. And we're going to have the children's librarian is going to continue to offer story times Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at the Downtown Recreation Center in the meantime. And also, because of all the new and exciting technology that's going to be in our beautiful 20,000 square foot library, and the staff from the technology library now that needs to move over to the new library, the county is going to close the technology library on January 31st. So we promise you lots of new and exciting things and lots of technology in the new library, but I just wanted to let everybody know about that.
Thank you for that report. City Attorney Barlow, any report?
I would only like to report for those who did not hear that the city successfully obtained an injunction against the Orange County Needle Exchange program moving forward. And although the matter still has to go to trial, we're very, very pleased about that result.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Okay, we'll adjourn. Thank you all. Happy New Year.